What is hernia mesh?
Hernia mesh is a type of material made out of a cloth of some sort, and then there's different materials, polypropylene, polyester, that is used to really plug a hole, usually in your abdomen, as part of a hernia surgery.
So why are there lawsuits involving hernia mesh?
Yeah. So, what the various lawsuits, what we believe to be true, and what our experts have told us is true, is the way that hernia mesh is currently designed or has been used for the last 20 years is not safe. It's not the best way to do it. So if you take a step back, hernia mesh has been used for a long time, maybe 50 or 60 years, and it was a very kind of light material. It was used minimally. It was installed a specific way, and medical device companies didn't make a lot of money off of selling this little piece of cloth. So sometime a company called Bard decided they could make more money and started making the patches bigger, in their opinion stronger, different types of technology, different types of weaves, and the thing that they used to sell for a penny, now they could sell for $1. Or if they sold it for $1, now they could sell for $100.
Okay.
So they made a lot more money doing that. And that is something that they liked. The problem was there's a law that allows them to not get FDA approval for the new product if it's, quote, substantially similar to a product that existed prior to 1976.
Really?
So they bring on all these new products and don't do appropriate testing. A period of time goes by, months, a year, 2 years, and they all start causing various types of problems.
Yeah, what kind of problems are people having with the hernia mesh?
So one of the challenges with this case, why the case has gone on, so the Bard litigation has been going on since 2018. There's various different types of hernia mesh that are on the market. So Bard has 20 different products. Covidien has 15 or 18 different products. And different products have different problems. One of the big problems is if there's a weaved cloth, then the white blood cells can't get in there. There's an infection, and the infection never goes away. It can just be infected perpetually, forever, causing various types of illness. Different product. So there's monofilament and multifilament hernia meshes. If they are made of a certain material, they start getting brittle, crumbling, rolling up within your body, moving. And depending on where they're located within your abdomen, that hernia mesh moves. And
Can cause injury.
Yeah, it can cause injury, abrasions, rubbing, inflammation, infection that way. One of the things that we've seen a whole bunch of is bowel obstruction. So the mesh moves up against somewhere in the intestine, bowel, something like that. And
so it's like catching, and then it's holding everything up.
Yeah, it's making like an hourglass.
Yeah.
And that's horribly painful. You have a thing called adhesions, where the mesh grows into the body in a place it's not supposed to. That's a problem. And now it's kind of fibrous, and sometimes you can't get it out. Or if you can get it out, it's a really invasive surgery that you have to pull out one strand at a time. And
or like remove a part of the bowel maybe or something.
Yeah, or whatever, and whatever the piece of mesh is attached to that it's not supposed to be attached to.
So are they still using this product? Is it recalled? Or what's the update?
Yeah, so there's, like we said, one of the challenges, we're talking really about 30 or 40 different products just in the two cases we're involved in. And there's some other smaller manufacturers that we're not involved in that also have litigation. So some of them have been recalled.
Okay.
A lot of them haven't been recalled, and that's a whole, my opinion, defense strategy. Is the manufacturer going to pull out a product and say, we need to recall this while there's an active litigation of 20,000 cases filed against them? It makes them look guilty. I think that's their concern. So in the meantime, they're not going to withdraw the product. I think as soon as there's a settlement, a lot of these products go away.
So what makes you eligible for hernia mesh lawsuit?
Yeah, so we're handling cases involving barred hernia meshes and Covidian hernia meshes, and if you have an injury related to the hernia mesh, and a lot of people don't know what type of mesh is in them. Bard had about 65% of the market share. Covidian had about 20% of the market share. So people call us every day and they say, I don't know what kind of mesh I had. There's an 85% chance it's one of these two. So we'll order your medical records. In the operative report, there will be a serial number, there will be the product, and we'll know what we're dealing with.
Is there a year range that people can look for?
Yeah, so I would say most of the cases are in the kind of early 2000s up to really almost present. It does go back a little bit further than that, but the products kind of rolled out
they
slowly.
knew it was a problem.
Yeah. So it seemed like the majority of our cases, I would say, are 2004 to 2015, with some exceptions to that.
Okay. So how many cases are being filed?
Yeah. So
regarding hernia mesh.
And you hear the term hernia mesh lawsuit. There's actually multiple different hernia mesh lawsuits, and the majority of those cases are in various different multi-district litigations. And for the people who don't know, a multi-district litigation is where all the cases from around the United States in federal court get put into one federal court, and that's really good for everyone, in my opinion. It's much more efficient. Instead of 3 or 4 cases here in Western New York and 3 or 4 cases in Iowa and 3 or 4 cases in Florida, all the cases get brought together. The judge issues a scheduling order, and what we learn in one case gets applied to the other cases. So we bring an expert to court. We say that this person is an expert in infection, and the judge makes a ruling on whether or not that person is allowed to testify, and then that will control in the other cases. Instead of doing this 20,000 times, we do it one time, we get an answer. It saves a lot of resources, it saves a lot of time. But there are different litigations for the different manufacturers. So Massachusetts case is Covidian, Ohio is Bard, and there's some other manufacturers. There's also some cases in state court. There was a state court case in Rhode Island, but that's, for our purposes, we're handling them at the federal court level.
All right, so how long does it take to settle a hernia mesh case?
That's a great question. So the hernia mesh cases have not, the ones we were working on, have been going on for 5 years. They haven't settled. There's various theories as to why. I have some of my own theories, but I think anytime you're dealing with a multi-district litigation, you're looking at, I would say, 5 to 7 years on average, millions of documents, deposing many employees, document holders from these companies, and then there's a process kind of known as bellwether trials, and people ask what a bellwether trial is. It's kind of supposed to be a representative case of an issue. So if there's 18 or 20,000 of these cases filed against Bard, there's issues. There's legal issues that have to get addressed, and we all want to know what a jury, everyone's entitled to a jury trial. And it would take a long time to do 20,000 jury trials. So we want to resolve, presumably the company probably knows they did something wrong. They want to resolve the case so that they're not getting sued for the next 100 years, and they can move forward with their business. We have all these people.
Should they, though?
Well, I guess that's a good question.
Yeah.
Right? We all make mistakes. We're not saying that Bard should get the death penalty, but they've caused a lot of harm, in our opinion.
Is there an average settlement for hernia mesh?
There isn't. But the way we look at what are cases going to settle for, it's what type of harm has a person gone through, and how likely are you to be able to bring that case to fruition. And it doesn't really make sense to have 20,000 trials. So we try to come to an agreement with whatever company it is, and whether it's Covidian or Bard, and here's your legal issues, here's what juries are going to do, here's what may happen in the future. I think that the reason this case has gone a long time and will continue to go for a while is you really do have a number of different products, and some of them are worse than others. You also have the human error factor where you have doctors implanting the stuff, which leads to a potential defense at trial in every single case.
Was it the mesh or was it the doctor?
Right. So if you're the defense attorney, you say, this is a really horrible thing that happened to this individual, but it's not our fault. It's this doctor's fault. He didn't know what he was doing.
Right.
He didn't listen to the instructions. He didn't follow the instructions, which makes it a lot harder for us. And it slows everything down. So the more viable the defense, the harder it is to resolve the cases. And just because you have a really strong case against X, Y, Z patch. So
this is really individualized to each case. This isn't necessarily a mass tort in the sense of like, okay, well, you're just equally gonna get this amount because we messed up.
Yeah. So what I would expect is sometimes referred to as a settlement matrix, where there's like a baseline of, we know what Bard or Covidian's overarching theory was, and their theory was, we're going to create a more expensive product so we can make more money. And what I personally believe is they start learning that these products can hurt people, so they try to make other products because they're making so much money, so they keep trying a different product. They put coatings on it so they don't get the adhesions. They put grips on it so that it's easier to install. And there's various reasons they don't work. Different products don't work for different reasons.
Is there a statute of limitations on a case like this?
Yeah, the statute of limitations is from the time of discovery. There's statute of limitations on every case, sometimes called statute of repose. I would say our typical call is when a person has to have what we call revision surgery. They have hernia mesh for a period of time. They have all these complications. A lot of times they don't know it's from the mesh right away. And then somebody figures out, okay, it's not really a stomach problem. A lot of times they think it's whatever the mesh is hitting. They think it's a problem with the bowel, or they think it's a problem with the spleen. And it takes a while, sometimes 10, 15, 20 hospital visits until the light bulb goes off in someone's head. Hey, the hernia mesh has moved and it's actually the problem. And then we get the call, we're like, hey, by the way, they Google hernia mesh and, oh, there's a lawsuit, and this has happened to thousands of other people. And that's our, usually we're getting at the time of discovery within a month or two, which is certainly within the statute of limitations.
Okay. Is hernia mesh lawsuits still going on?
There's various different hernia mesh lawsuits going on. The case against Bard, the biggest manufacturer, started in 2018. It's still ongoing. There's a trial date for the next case is in October. There's a new litigation started last year, 2022, against Covidian, which would be the second biggest manufacturer. So that's a newer litigation, but every hernia mesh litigation is still ongoing at this point.
How do you file a hernia mesh lawsuit?
Yeah, so the way we file the hernia mesh lawsuits is by filing a complaint in the multi-district litigation, whether that is the state of Ohio or federal court in Ohio or Massachusetts. It's about a 5-page document. The biggest thing that we need is medical records. We need to know what device you have within your body. We get the serial number of it, the manufacturer, the make, the model, and the injury that it's caused. Those are the two biggest things that we're looking at, is what caused the injury and then what happened to you because of what this manufacturer did.